Mayor. How do you feel about taxpayers funding all or part of a sports stadium?
Easy one, Bill. Thank you. I got to make an important distinction. If there is going to be a stadium with taxpayer funding, it's the room tax from the auditorium district that we pay everywhere we travel, and people that come to Boise pay as well. That is the bulk of any public money that's ever going to go into a stadium. I'm happy to talk about this because somehow that got lost in the shuffle. A room tax, the auditorium district exists for auditoriums, theaters, and sports parks. That's why that funding source exists. If it's paid for that way, we ought to look at it, and a private developer. Playing ball is a great thing. People love to come out and support a team. Sometimes I think that's all we have together, is to stand behind a sports team. You know, you can't talk about politics anymore. You can't talk about religion ever. But how about those Broncos, huh? We're all behind them. We need that kind of thing and a place to go to concert and to recreate that's affordable and accessible. If it's paid for in that way, you bet.
Sports stadium.
Sure, and you know, I touched on this earlier. This is one of those areas where I'm supportive of the concept early on. We've heard about this stadium for 16 years. The needs of the city have changed drastically. Often the mayor paints the picture when we're talking about homelessness of Seattle, San Francisco, Portland. Those mayors built stadiums before they addressed affordability and transportation and all these things to prevent what we now see in those communities with regard to camps. In 2018, I think it was the budget of 2018 or 2017, there was a $3 million line item from the City of Boise to go towards a stadium, and I held that in a motion until we could have a hearing and see a real plan, because as a council member, you don't support something until you see whether or not the investment's worthy of the money. That $3 million sat there and was held because I held it. I've continued to listen and now understand that there are so many things like housing and transportation that our residents expect us to spend city dollars on before we do these other large legacy projects.
Can I address that, Bill, real quickly?
Yes, but then you'll get a chance to rebut as well.
You just heard it. I was for it until it got difficult, and then I was against it. I proposed that budget, and then I held it. You can't have things every way, folks. We're going to do both things: affordable housing and a place where people can have fun. We're going to do things at once. That's what this job is, to do multitask, to do things that are for the long-term best interest of the city.
Councilwoman.
I want to be clear that as council members, we have to take actual votes. And in that budget presented to us by the mayor, there's a line item that I held because we hadn't had a public hearing and we hadn't seen a proposal. I have always been committed to a public process, and that's what was required before I would approve holding money aside, stashed aside for a stadium that we hadn't seen a proposal. It wasn't right for the people. It definitely wasn't right as council members to do that. This has always been about a legacy project.
Whoa.
And you've asked us tonight, today, what we've learned. If we ever hear from the public and think differently about our thoughts on how we should move forward. I heard loud and clear for many years, starting with that budget item, that you guys wanted us to be thinking about other things. I reflected on that and stand by my decision that this is not the right time to do this for Boise. We have to address affordable housing and transportation with our dollars.
We can't let that go. My legacy is my daughter, and that is humbling and difficult, and all you parents out there know that. That's the only legacy that matters to me. You make tough decisions for the future of the city, and in a city that I was born and raised in. My daughter represents the 4th generation of people living here, and I want to give her the best city that we can give. But she's my legacy. There isn't a building or a project or a sports park or anything else that matters like that. And I'm glad you mentioned it, because I don't give a damn about it in that setting. I care about her.
Well, but Mr. Mayor, There's nothing wrong with leaving a legacy. So why don't you respond to that? When you say legacy, what do you mean? And given what he just said, how do you phrase that notion of a legacy project?
Sure, a legacy as an elected official, which one cannot deny in your time, Mr. Mayor, you've done great things. And you leave buildings behind as well, or you've worked to do that. There is no comparison between having a debate about a large-scale building and the importance of our children in this community or in our lives. To me, that's a totally different
No.
level of legacy.
It's the same, and that's what she was implying, that I want a building with my name on it. I don't read, do you guys read plaques when you go into public buildings? I never read those, and I'm a public official. I don't care what that says. I have never, this is one of the most charged terms, and she meant it in that way.
Well, fair enough. You've responded, and I
okay.
think you both explained your point, so I thank you both, and let's move on.